Well, g'day everyone. Back for our usual, well, it's my Friday live Sony news, rumours and gossip with you guys. We're in pre-show at the moment, so if you are popping in, please, if you don't want to watch the pre-show, just skip. I will put the timeline down below after this is finished. Let me just check that that is on mute. Yes, it is. So say hi in the chat. Like I said, I think we've got about 10 minutes before we're going to start the show today. I want to make sure everyone's in. Basically, we've got a few things to discuss today. You know, we're going to talk about the a9ii, we're going to talk about the a6400 update, the new lenses Sony's announced. So we've got stacks of stuff to actually go through today. So let me just see who's coming in on the chat. So we've got MM. Hello. G'day, MM. How are you? Muscam is also saying hello as well. So let me know where you're from if you haven't been in the live chat before, because I'd love to know that. Brett's also come in as well. G'day, Brett. Good to see you in here. Chris is saying howdy. Oreo is also saying hello, guys. So g'day, Oreo. How are you finding your A9, Oreo? Getting used to it now a little bit more? I know at the beginning you were a little bit unsure and everything, but I'd be curious to know how you're going now. Is everything working okay? Oh, by the way, I put a review up of this yesterday. This light is fantastic. Absolutely love it. So check out the review if you haven't looked at it. It's the one before this one. So just check it out. I know it's around about $200. I think it's 200 Australian. I don't think it's that American. It's probably, I don't know, it might be 170 or something, 150. But incredible light. Absolutely love it. I haven't been able to put it down. I've been driving Kerry nuts with it. Let's see who else is in here. Brittany's saying hello from Canada. G'day, Brittany. Good to see you here. Big John is also from the UK saying hello. Is it KGL? Is also here from Norway. MM is Los Angeles. Well, hopefully I'll be able to meet up with you in February, MM. Eric's saying from Princetown, New Jersey. I suppose it will be. Is it New Jersey? Steve is saying good morning from the UK. G'day, Steve. Gathis said, wow, I caught the beginning of the show. Mus said, hello from Los Angeles. Allah says, g'day from Sydney. Oreo said, I haven't been able to test the A9. Where were we? Oh, he's taken it off. Casper said, Nick on his dead Ike. Oh, no. He's not even in here, Casper, and you're starting on him. I love it. Trevor said, greetings from Boston. Chris is also saying, it's a great 85 degrees in California. Past few days have been over 100. Yeah, it's pretty cold here today. It's only going to be a top of 16 degrees Celsius, which I don't know what it is.
I can't get the answer to that on Apple Watch.
Hey, Siri. What's 16 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit?
That would be 60.8 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, so we're 60.8 degrees today. So it's cold here in Melbourne. Well, what do you do? I don't mind the change of seasons though, to be honest. It's nice sitting around the fire at night. I mean, we don't get snow, but it's not too cold. Not like European standards, that's for sure. Trevor said, greetings from Boston. I read that before, I think. Azez said, hi from Victoria, Canada. Well, I live in Victoria in Australia. Well, it's the States, Victoria. Oreo says, I haven't been able to test the camera, David. Too many wedding pictures to edit. Yeah, tell me about that, Oreo. My weddings have finished now, though. I've got a couple in August, which is unusual because that's a bit early. Usually they start around about September, October. But I have got a couple in August this year. So I've got now around about 8 weeks or so with non-weddings, which I love actually because it's great to have the break. Ben says, catching first live session. Hello from Perth. Well, welcome, Ben. Good to see you in here. Hopefully you'll have a good time. Trevor said it's 50 Fahrenheit in Boston, 10 Celsius. Isn't it your summer? Trevor? That's a bit cool, isn't it? Nivak, I suppose it might be late though. It's probably fairly late in the day, is it? Yeah, we're going to have it. So we're going to have a top of 60 today, fraction over 60. Nivak's also saying hi as well. Like I said, guys, we're in pre-show time at the moment. We've got another 5 or so minutes, 6 minutes, I think, before we start. So fire away any questions if you have any questions as you're starting to come in. Please, if you can, love it if you could give us a thumbs up. It does let people know we're live. For some reason, YouTube, see, Carl's saying no notification again. So we're not getting notifications out. I don't know what's going on. It's a real pain. So if you could give me a thumbs up, it does let other people know that I'm on live. It's really annoying, Carl. I don't know why, because I gave an hour's notice. You would think that it would get out there, and everyone's saying the same thing, that they're not getting the notifications, which is a bit frustrating, really. Trevor said, laugh at late spring, summer starts in a week. Oh, okay. Well, we sort of officially start summer, winter. We go by the strict months. So winter for us starts in the 1st of June. So we've already, in Australia anyway, we say winter starts the 1st of June. I know it's the, is it the equinox or something? I can't remember. Yeah, there's something about that date, isn't there? Eric said it's cold today in the northeast of the United States. What else have we got? Hero, g'day Hero. Brett says, David, have you changed your mind about the a9ii that will come out? Well, I don't know. It looks like the rumours are going to be saying there's going to be something going to come out. I'm going to talk about that as a major story today, Brett. I'm still not completely convinced though, but we'll wait and see. I mean, the interesting thing is they still haven't even updated that major firmware yet on the A9. They've done it for the a6400, and I'll talk about that as the first story today. But they haven't talked about the A9 II. But the A9 II is probably not a camera that I'm going to buy, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. I'm really after more of a video camera. I mean, that may give both, I don't know. But yeah, I'll talk about that more when we get to the story, Brett. Chris, is this the show with Aaron or just... No, this is just me today, Chris. Aaron is on Wednesday my time, which is Tuesday US time. Hero said, I just got my notification, laugh out loud. Last time I wasn't until 70 minutes after the show started. I know, it's crazy. There's some weird stuff going on with notifications. I don't know what it is. So Chris also said he got the notice. Steve said, I wish we had a break for a few weeks of weddings. We are doing about 3 per week for the next 4 months. Yeah, I know. It gets like that here too in summer season. You get a bit over it, actually. I'm seriously thinking about cutting back, though. Now that YouTube's growing for me an awful lot, I might end up halving the amount of weddings I take, and then I'll sort of split between doing weddings, portraits, and YouTube. So I'll just see. I'm seriously thinking about using someone else to offset some weddings too, because I get a lot of inquiries, and if I get the inquiries, then I can offset that to someone else and run that as part of my business. I might talk about that in another episode one day. What else have we got? Elaine, g'day Elaine. Hi from Ohio. I love my Sony A9. Well, so do I, Elaine. It is the best camera I've ever owned, and I still absolutely adore this camera. Still getting used to the 24. Stunning lens. I'm really happy with it. I've got a few images to post on Facebook in the photography videography school and other sites, because I actually like the way the image looks. It gives a little bit of a different perspective and distortion. But yeah, I adore this camera too. It's still the best camera I've ever used, and I'm going to talk about that in the updated one to sort of talk about what they could do to update that. You know, it's going to be interesting to sort of see. John said, I got a notification just before the pre-show start. Okay, well, that's cool. Casper said, no, Angry Junior. Aaron may pop in a bit later. And Thomas says, greetings, Dave. Love the little light. I know. How good is this little light? It's fantastic. I absolutely adore it. And if you watch the video, I'll put the police siren on. It's quite funny. At the start of it, I wanted to have a bit of fun. Let me just go. Oh, hang on. Where are we? I'm still learning how to use it, though. That's the problem. Oh, here, yeah. And I think is it there? because it has all these different lights. Oh, there you go. It has all these different lights, and I started the thing off yesterday. I'll go into the dark. Hang on, you watch, because I put it looks like a police light. I love it. I'm going to have so much fun scamming people with this thing. I'm going to have a ball. If I didn't get in trouble, I'd bolt it to the top of the car and drive down the street with it. I'm such a big geek, though, honestly. It's like I love gadgets that I can play with, and this thing fits right down my alley. I'm going to have so much fun with this thing. It's just brilliant. I love it. And I love the way it's got the handle that you can attach. Where is that attachment? Oh, here. I love the way you can put that onto it, and then it clips onto your camera anywhere where you want to put it, you know, and you can do that sort of stuff. Or you can even fold it underneath and connect it through there as well. If you haven't seen the review, I put the review up yesterday. So check it out. Yeah, it's really a great light. I've got 3 of them now that have just been sent to me. This is my favourite due to the fact that it has the colour. But the other lights are also really good as well. I mean, the small light that I've got, that one, from Moment is fantastic as well, because this is tiny, really powerful little light. Let me just switch it on. It's a really powerful little light, and the beauty of this, though, is that it... let me just change it. The beauty of this is that it's got a magnet on the back of it that you can stick onto anything metal, so it's fantastic for that. But let me put it right up. It's really powerful. So we're up to 70, 80, 90, 100. So that's 100%. You can see it's really, really bright. But I love the way you can stick it on a magnet. I love the screen on the back, which is really cool. Let me see if it'll focus. You know, they're all great lights. They really are. So that's the medium-sized one that I've got. Let me just reduce that a bit. And then the other one that I've got, which was sent to me, let me just turn that one off, was this one. This is the it's called the i9ii, I think it is. But this one's really nice as well. I love this too. I mean, these are going to be... I'll use all of these because I love doing product photography, or when I'm doing weddings, I love lighting up things like the rings, the flowers, anything to do with the wedding. And this is a beautiful light as well. This is stunning. So this one's a little bit bigger. I like the way the cover comes off this one. You know, it has that diffuser that pops on and off. Again, it's quite a powerful light. Let me just turn this on. The controls are just on the back of this one. And you can see this one too is really powerful. And again, you can control the color on these. That's why I like these so much, because you can go from the, quite blue, and you can go very yellow as well. Not that you'll really see, you might see it if I put it on the bench. So fantastic. I love them. I really do like all of them. And I like I said, I just love gadgets, and these sort of go right down where I love playing with them. So great. And like I said, I will use all of them, particularly if I start to do product photography. And as I start to do more reviews, I'll be sort of lighting them up and things like that. Now let me just start this, because I've got to do the timer. I forgot to do it. I'm a silly boy, honestly. I'll just start the show from the start time. I'll do it from there. All right, so let's go. We're now at 10:03, so let's start the show. So let me just go over to the Oastler Images logo. G'day everyone, welcome to our usual Friday Sony News Rumours show. We did have a bit of a pre-show there for a few minutes. So if you... Now the thing is too, I will be putting a timeline down underneath the description, so if you don't want to watch the whole show, because these always tend to go for a long time, so please don't whinge about that. Just skip to the story that you like. And then if you don't want to watch any more, well, that's fine. Just go and watch something else. So that's why I stick that timeline down below. So each story will have the timeline, what the story is, and the time that it actually starts. So, that way you can skip to whichever story that you like. We're going to talk about a number of things today. Obviously, this show is very Sony orientated. So if you're not really into Sony, it might be best to switch off unless you're just curious or interested in Sony and what's going on with Sony. I do a show with Aaron on Australia Wednesday, which is US Tuesday, which is more open to any other camera format that's out there. So that's more non-Sony related. It's just basically anything mirrorless or camera related. So I do that with Aaron on Wednesday. So if you do want to watch that, that's fine as well. And just subscribe to both of us, because I do it one week and then Aaron will do it on his show the other week. And this show is on every Friday Australia time, or it's Thursday, obviously, if you're in the UK or Europe or in the US. And like I said, this is sort of a very sort of Sony-orientated show where we go through the Sony Alpha rumors. It's like a group of mates sitting around a table having a discussion. And that's the way I sort of base this on. Some people always go, yeah, but you're just looking at the pages that are already there. But we have a discussion about that, and that's what this is all about. So if that doesn't interest you, well, all I can say to you is switch off. Because like I say to people, if you don't like it, no one forces you to watch it, because you always get the haters, and and I just say, well, why did you watch it? And they never get back to me. But anyway, it's interesting. So thank you for everyone that's already tuning in. These shows now are getting such a great response now. We're starting to get a lot larger numbers. If you can, guys, if you could share this feed now, because YouTube is not giving out notices that the show is going live. Some were saying in the pre-show that they didn't get the notices and things like that. So if you can share it, it really helps with promoting the show, particularly, like I said, due to the fact that I'm not sponsored and doing this all on my own. So that would be fantastic if you could do that. I put up a video yesterday discussing this light. So if you do want to check that out, have a look at it. I love this light. Really pleased with it, and I love the way that this has also RGB control. So if you haven't checked the review out, check that out. It's the previous video to this one, and let me know what you think. I can't say highly enough how much I love this. I had a discussion with Aaron, who's another Aussie here, and he was saying, David, you should get this light. And it was interesting because I was contacted by that company just after he said that. I didn't ask for it. I suppose they saw the other light reviews that I did, and they asked me if I'd like to review it. So they did send it to me. I'm always honest with you guys. But I adore it. I think this is absolutely fantastic. So have a look at that video anyway and let me know what you think about it. I've got other ones which I discussed too just before. The Moment is fantastic as well. It's got a magnet in it. You can stick that to anything. They all have their purpose. So we've got such great gear now. We really are lucky with what we can use nowadays. To be able to stick this sort of thing in your camera bag, and it's quite strong. Like if you think about it, let me just do a demo, because Oreo asked me yesterday what sort of power these things are. Well, let me just change this for a second, and I'll just sort of show you. So if we had that lit up there, I'm going to take this in the other studio, so I'll sort of give you an idea about the power that this light's got. So I'm not sure if you can hear me, but I'll try just to hide behind the door, and I'll see if I can light Susie up. Because I tested it yesterday and it's really quite strong. So I'm not sure whether you can see Susie or not, but this room is in complete blackness. If I turn that off and turn it back on, now I'm I'll do feet because the US. So I'm 10 feet. So I was 10 feet away from Susie there, and it was lighting her up quite well. So, they really are good. Oh, let me bring Susie back. She'll get lonely. So the thing is, they're not going to replace a strobe or a big light. They're not going to replace this, for instance. There's no way they'll replace this with continuous light on it. They just don't have that type of power. These are really strong. That's not even full power. Like that's full power. This is nuts. So that is really strong. So they're not going to replace this type of unit, but they'll be great for, say, lighting up in a pinch if you're having trouble focusing. Also, they'd be great if you wanted to, say, just light up some products, you know, flowers, details, things like that. They'd be fantastic for. So, you know, there's a lot of good stuff that you can actually use them for. So let us just see quickly in the chat before we go to the news. Now, I am drinking normal coffee, guys. I'll be back drinking the fake coffee beer with you guys in when it warms up, basically, and the time difference is not so great because we had daylight savings change and it's only 10 o'clock here in Melbourne. So once we hit our summer, I will be back with the having a beverage with you guys. All right, so let's keep going. I just want to quickly go through this. Brett asked if I'd changed my mind about the a9ii coming out, and I'm going to discuss that as one of the stories today. Let me just scroll down. Mario said, hello everyone from Canada. Trevor said, light is super bright for its size. Yeah, it is actually. 42 Pro says, hate that I can't stay and watch live because I'm on location for a filming project. Thanks again for the great content, David. No worries, 42 Pros. You can always watch it as a replay later, though. How does one get into product photography? I'd love to do that. Well, you know what? I can't really discuss that because I don't do it. When I talk about product photography for me, I'm talking about doing things in weddings and stuff like that, or when I'm going to start reviewing stuff for YouTube, I can then light the stuff up. I don't do product photography because I don't find it interests me enough, so I've never really done it. I do it sometimes for hairdressers. They get me to go in and shoot their salon, and I've done that quite a lot. So that's one thing where I then shoot the products and stuff like that are inside it. But shooting pure products, I don't do. So yeah, I can't really comment on that. Robert saying hi from Queensland. Tag the shooter said, hell, I just got here. Thought show had already started. Chris said Sony rocks. G'day, Michael. Good to see you in here. Billy said, hi, David. I'm Billy from Scotland. G'day, Billy. Tag the shooter said, hey, Michael. Tag's asking if Michael pre-ordered the 600. Robert said, hi David, loving my A9. I had someone else talk about that earlier, and it's fantastic. The A9 is the best camera I've ever had. And sometimes I seriously think about buying another one. I'm just trying to hold off to see what Sony release. David said, hi David, I'm usually out on a Thursday evening my time. Glad I could make it live tonight. Good to see you in here, David. My wife told me to rebuke Sony. Is that so you're not going to buy the 600mm, Michael? I don't need it either. I mean, the thing is, I just don't use it, and I'll talk about that when we go through the first story. Alex said, good evening, caught the live stream again. Good to see you in here, Alex. What was that one there? Alex said, made the decision to sell my A7 III. The A9 is just too tempting. Look, I can understand that, Alex, because look, I've got both and I'm lucky. I've got the A7 III and the A9, but I use the A9 probably 90% of the time. I can't put it down, and that's the problem. Once you've used the A9 with the real-time tracking, the extra dials that are on it, it's just so hard to put down. You know, the no rolling shutter, the perfect silent shutter basically that you've got there. You can go to 1/32,000th of a second. There's so many things about the A9 that are so far advanced to anything else out there. And I do recommend, particularly if you can get it, why Sony have got their discounts, jump on board because you will not regret it. I've got slippers on today. What do I do with them? Oh, they're here. It's cold today in Melbourne. It's only going to be 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So I've got slippers on. Oh man, it cracks me up. Oh no, David got sucked into the black hole. I love it. Really powerful light, David. I may get one. Yeah, it's really good, Oreo. Like I said, the beauty with this is that you can also change the color. So I thought the other day it might be able to be used in backgrounds when I'm shooting, like to light up a background behind a model or something like that and make the model make a blue background or a red background or whatever you want it to do. There's so many possibilities with this, and that's why I like it so much. And having those sort of movie modes in there where you can make it look like candlelight, Things like that, I actually might end up using that when I'm filming weddings and stuff like that. It could be quite interesting. You even get thunder. Check out my review anyway. It's the previous one to this video if you want to see about it. Andre's saying hello as well. Peter says, hi David, you're using the a6400 in the 16. Yes, I am. So I'm using the a6400, so I haven't updated yet. I'll talk about that in the first story in a minute. So I haven't updated the a6400 yet, but it has got the Sigma 16mm. Love it. Great combination. I must review that and do a video about it, actually. Philip saying pre-ordered the 200 to 600. Good on you, Philip. I'm sure it'll be fantastic. Ray saying, hello, David. Joe said Sony a9 shutter lag 0.213 seconds, as Tony Northrup says on YouTube. Is it really a problem for sports, Sony? No. Look, no. Don't worry what Tony's saying in that regard. I've used this for dancing stuff where girls are jumping really, really fast and things like that, and I've never had a problem with the shutter lag. I don't believe that is an issue. So the seasons are different there. Yeah, we're the opposite to you guys. So we're the opposite to Europe and the US. So now we're in our winter. Obviously, you guys are heading into your summer. Kai did a great review. I haven't checked any reviews of the 200 to 600 yet, believe it or not, though. I suppose it's because I'm not really going to get one, that I haven't really looked at any reviews. Gerald said, yes, that little light looks nice. Yes, it certainly is. Then what we have here, than what you have in the US. Yeah, it's the complete opposite. Brittany said A9 too, so I can afford to use A9. Oreo says, here where I live, there are lots of medium-sized industries, so if I want to work in the winter, I need to do product photography, yeah. Well, see, we're very lucky here in Australia that the winter is so mild that it doesn't really affect photography that much. It only really affects weddings. Due to the fact that they don't really want to get married in the winter. But everything else still goes. My, model shoots still go, family portrait shoots still go, things like that. So product photography is not really as such a big deal here. Gerald said, I agree the A9 is the best camera that I've ever used. Hard to put down for my A7R. Yeah, it is. Once you use one, you'd understand what I mean. Take the Shooter said, David, so you'd rather have two A9s than an A7 III as a second camera? Yeah, I would if I could. It's just Kerry would shoot me if I sold the A7 III and bought another A9. But yes, I would. I'd prefer two A9s, definitely. I am DeBrown says, the light is so good from the right angle, it will make you look like you have hair. And it will give me a hair light too. I love it. Just got the notification. I told you, everyone. I don't know what's going on with YouTube. Chris said 600mm looks good for sports. Steve says, I have been using 3A9 since there was available switch from Nikon D5. The only thing I miss is the 105. You could get the Sigma one though. Sony will bring out 100, that's for sure. I'm not sure about a 105 though. But Sammy said, I pre-ordered the 200 to 600 as well. Tag the Shooter said, I thought you only bought Sony lenses, laugh out loud. The lag is bad for sports for that first shot in the real sports, but the A9 is fantastic any other time. Well, like I said, there's nothing more challenging than dance shoots, Tag. And when they're jumping and running across from the screen and stuff like that, I haven't noticed that the lag has been a problem for me. Now that a dancer that is running full pelt doing dances is going to be as quick as any sports that's out there. I can tell you that because they are super quick. And basically they're running from the side, jumping through the air, and I've got to track them going through the air. And I usually don't start shooting until I've seen them in the viewfinder, and I haven't found the lag an issue at all. So, I don't know. I just think a bit differently than that. I officially ended my Z6 experiment. Laugh out loud, AF drove me nuts. Yeah, that's what I found when I tested the Z6 in the camera store. The AF just didn't match what Sony had. Every time I went back to my A9, yeah, it was like going from a Ferrari to a Pinto. Oreo says, I love that what I can see of the 200 to 600. I'd love to buy one. Unfortunately, I can't justify it with the kinds of jobs I get here. Chris said, to be fair, Tony was mainly talking about problems with lag when shooting at 1,200. Okay, well, there you go. See, I never shoot with those sort of lenses. So the longest lens that I use is the 70 to 200. So that, yeah, could be an issue, I suppose, if you're dealing with those long lenses. Yeah. Peter says, you have the a6400, just, yes it is, it's in standard profile. Peter, I only ever shoot in the standard profile. I don't shoot in any other profiles unless I have to. And it's very rare that I have to do that. If it was really incredibly contrasty conditions and I was doing a wedding where the bride was in the shade or the groom was in the shade and one was in the sun, then I might use log. But 99% of the time, I'm just using standard profile for everything. You just have to watch your exposure. As long as I watch my exposure, I love the results. Just check out the last video I did with Rebecca, the one which was the Profoto A1X, all shot in standard profile. Sammy said, never had any issues with the A9. Gerald said, I did order the 200 to 600 and traded back my Sigma 150 to 600. Michael said, Tony wasn't talking about the shutter, he was talking about the EVF. Oh, okay. That has a small delay when he was taking long action shots with the EVF. Yeah, I haven't noticed that, but I haven't used those long lenses, so yeah, I can't say it's bothered me at all. Alex said, got a wedding tomorrow. Will be the last wedding with the A7 III paired with my A7R3, and then we'll put it up for sale and fund an A9. I don't blame you, Alex. I think that's the way to go. Hero says, I'm glad I just saw that. I was looking at my Z6 for a full frame option. Yeah, the autofocus, they're a great video camera though, but the autofocus on the Z6 is just not up where Sony is, and that's a fact. And that's about it. So let's, I'll just see what Michael said. I think the lag issue is caused by people focusing on the person when they want to shoot rather than follow the person and then shoot. Can easily be handled with better technique. And so, I probably agree, Michael, because I don't do it. Look, I've never had an issue with a dancer coming into it. And like I said, dancers are very challenging. And I'm talking about elite dancers. I'm not talking about just young kids doing dancing. I'm talking about elite dancers that I do it for. They're just running into the frame. I'm on continuous. I click the shutter button as I see them come into the frame and just fire away, and I haven't noticed any lag at all. But that, I don't know, it might be technique. I'm not sure. I don't know how much Tony uses these cameras. I mean, he may use his Nikons more than he uses his Sony cameras, so I'm not sure. Andrew Brown, I mostly do sports video. If the A9 had no record limits, I would have gotten it the same. I would have gotten it. Same with the Fuji X-T3. Yeah, and the new A9 will probably get rid of that limit. It is a pity that it has that, unfortunately. I love the a6400 though, and I've been using that a lot now, and it's sort of changed my thinking. Initially, I wasn't going to buy it, but since I've been using it, I love it. Even AF video was slow using the 200 to 500. Yeah, it's still, I agree, it's still not as good. The video autofocus and the standard autofocus on the Z6 is not as good as what Sony are giving. No one's matching what Sony has though, so, that's the thing. All right, so let's get on to the first story. What is it? We're 1920. Okay, so let's go through this because I want to talk about this. So Sony has just announced that they've just released it. I haven't done it yet because I was doing this video feed today, so I haven't done the update yet. But they have just done the update for the a6400, and they've added the IAF. I'm not sure if that means that the A9 firmware is going to come out soon as well. That's what I'm really looking forward to. But what a bonus. And anyone can tell me too, does it add the intervalometer? Let me know in the live chat because I'd be curious about that. Because they did say it was going to add the intervalometer. I don't know whether this mentions that or not. But it now has its version 2 that's been put in. And bringing with it Animal AF support and support for that wireless remote commander that's there as well. I can't remember whether the I don't think the a6400's got the intervalometer in it, has it? I can't remember. I might be wrong. I just haven't used it yet, so I don't know. So if someone can let me know, I'm just trying to see in the chat whether anyone mentions that at all. So let me know if it's already got it. Like I said, I can't remember. I don't think it has. I think it was meant to come with a firmware update. But I might be wrong. I could be wrong there. Anyway, so the IAF has now come to that camera. It's already available on the A7 III and the A7R3. It's still not available on the A9 though, so that's coming fairly... Oh, it already had it. Okay, thanks, Eric. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember because I haven't used it yet. I don't use the intervalometer enough. Oh, thank you so much, Sammy. Just gave me a donation there. So Sammy Photography just gave me $5. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, thanks for that. So, yeah, so all they've added then, obviously, is that the Animal IAF and also the that Bluetooth remote that they had, the wireless remote that they came out, has been added. So we'll probably do it. I'll update it later today. Like I said, I didn't want to do it this morning in case if something happened and I wanted to use this for the stream. So I'll probably do it after this stream has happened. And because I always do like to update it. And like I said, it's going to be a great feature. I've used the Animal IAF testing on my dog Ziggy with the A7 III and love it. So it's certainly something I will use. And occasionally I'll get portrait shoots from families that want to be have their dog in it and then they want their dog photographed. So it is certainly going to be a great benefit to me. So thank you, Sony, for giving us that anyway. A fantastic feature. So there's not much else to talk about. I'm sure they've also probably fixed a couple of bugs that we didn't know about. They usually do that, with each firmware update. Sometimes you find it starts up a little bit quicker or it just runs a little bit faster. They just don't mention those sort of things. And they usually do quash bugs that you just didn't know about. So it is always advisable to update the firmware when they come out. So really that's all there is about that. And people are saying, yes, the intervalometer was already in there, so that's good because I wasn't sure. Like I said, I know the A9 hasn't got it yet though, so the A9 will get the intervalometer once they have that update when it comes out. I think it's firmware version 5, isn't it? I think, or is it 6? I can't remember. What version firmware is the A9? Let me just check. I'm pretty sure it's... Well, I'll tell you exactly. What are we on? So the version on the A9 at the moment is 5, so it's 6, yeah. So version 6 on the A9 will give you, you gonna focus? Focus? It's because I have face detect on. Whenever it tries to focus on the face, it has trouble. It's not gonna, it's probably because it's a split screen. Anyway, it's, version 6 will come out and then we'll get the intervalometer and the Animal IAF for the Sony A9, so I'm really hanging out for that. Just seeing what anyone else is saying in here. Yeah, people are saying it had it from the start. Gerald said, I've been shooting pro sports for 40 plus years and you just need the right technique and the A9 doesn't miss dunks for any spot. I agree. I know it's interesting. But like I said, Gerald, you might be able to have more of a discussion on this than me because you've been using the long lenses. I don't use long lenses, so I can't discuss it with long lenses. But I can tell you certainly from using a 70-200, I've never ever thought when I was using the A9 that there was a shutter lag there that stopped me from getting that initial shot. I just haven't found that. But it might be technique. It could be technique, and that's the thing. And that's what some people are saying there, that it might be technique that people are having. Just to let you know, Gerald, too, I still haven't received that ND filter yet. Don't know whether you want to check it on your side. It may come sometime today, though. Rani says, I am a Sony rep. Well, welcome, Rani. Is it Rani Uri? Blue said, I had better results tracking with my GFX 50R than the Z camera. Oh, boy, I didn't find it that bad. That's interesting. Harry said, hi, David, and the great people who support his channel. They are fantastic, Harry. It's such a great group in here. Really appreciate the support, too. I love you guys. PJ said, David, how do you like the Polar Pro? Well, are you talking about the new ND? I haven't got it yet. Gerald sent it to me because I got it from Amazon in the US and they sent it to Gerald because I couldn't get it delivered here to Australia. And then Gerald's forwarded it on to me and it can take time. Sometimes the deliveries can take a couple of weeks. So I'm still waiting on getting it. So PJ, I'll let you know when I get it. Michael said Tony was basically just saying he hoped they improve the EVF on the A9 in the next generation to keep up with the shutter speed of the A9 when it comes to shooting long action photography. Well, I would say they probably will use that new 5.6 million dot EVF. That's a given. So, you know, we've just got to wait for that, and they will improve the EVF. But like I said, I haven't noticed it being an issue, but I don't. Perhaps it's just that I'm not using those long lenses. I don't know. But Gerald said he didn't have any issues either. Michael said version 6 to come for the A9. Yep. I guess there was a version update for the a6400 released last month. Any info on the update and what it will include? No, I can't remember. Brett said version 6 should be released very soon. Yeah, hopefully it could be any time now. They did say the US summer though, so it could be any time now. So they're not behind schedule, so that's the thing you have to remember. They just promised that it would be sometime this summer. And perhaps seeing that they're adding the intervalometer into the A9 and you know, they've got the animal IAF, things may take a little bit longer to sort out. Sammy said, now that I got rid of my Z6, would you get the a6400 as a backup camera to the A9 or wait and see if Sony releases a new camera soon? If you're not in a hurry, I'd probably wait. But having said that, I love the a6400. I use it all the time now. I've been using that a lot for video, and you guys know I use mostly the A9. But I have to admit, when I did the video the other day of Rebecca, if you haven't seen that, check Rebecca out. It's a beautiful, I think it's beautiful, some of my best work. But if you have a look at that video, that was shot with the A9 still. I still adore the A9 video. That's why sometimes I've seriously thought about buying two of them. But the a6400 is also excellent as well. With that real-time tracking is superb. I know it doesn't have IBIS, but whenever I'm shooting video, I'm always shooting with a gimbal anyway. So, g'day Dion, good to see you in here. It was when Tony was tracking a bird. It was when he was using EVF and the bird would end up flying out of the shot. Okay. Gerald says, I've used the 400 and the 600 Sigma and the A9 had no issues with missing shots. Well, that's what I've heard too, but I've got no idea. But like I said, I don't do that type of shooting, so... Eric said, Tony did compare the initial shutter lag of the A9 and the D5 and the 1DX Mark II. They all have shutter lag. The A9 just had a fraction more. The A9 also got twice as many shots in focus. Gerald said, when I PM'd you, the filter was in Melbourne Customs. Yeah, who knows then, Gerald. They've taken a week to get it from there. Michael said, I think the lag issue is another example of fake Sony news or poor technique, because they also say the Canon 1DX and the Nikon D5 are faster. Read the lag issue. Yeah, well, I don't... And this is the interesting thing, Michael. That I can only talk from my experience of using it the way I use the camera, and I have never, ever noticed a lag issue. And I used to shoot with the D4S, and that was as good as it gets if you're dealing with digital SLRs. And I haven't noticed that at all. So, I don't know. Anyway, we won't worry about that anymore because everyone's saying different things. Zoet said, hi everyone, just join in from the UK. Just join in on the UK, has a long phone call. Michael said, Eric, yes, but at the end he was saying the issue is with the EVF keeping up with the shutter speed from what I got it. Perhaps I'll have to look at the video. PJ said the Nikon is the fastest though from the start up to taking first shot. It's milliseconds. Tag the Shooter said, well, with the 400mm, I never have an issue with the Sony A9, that's for sure. And I agree with you, Tag. Yeah, I'm not sure. But says Dion says Tony is not talking about the shutter lag, and I think that's where people might be getting confused. They may be talking about a little bit of an EVF lag, but I haven't even noticed that either. And like I said, I'm doing dancing, but I haven't used these crazy long lenses. I'm just using the 70-200, so yeah, I can only comment on that. All right, let's go to the next story. 29:58. So the next story is this, which is talking about the Sony 200-600 and also the 600mm f4. Like I said, these aren't lenses that I'm probably going to purchase because I don't really ever use this sort of stuff. I don't really photograph wildlife. Don't really photograph birds and things like that, or really do sports. It's just not what I'm into. But having said that, what a great price they've come up with for that lens. Like, it's reasonable. I know people hate it when I say that, but it certainly is a very reasonably priced lens when you think this is the only lens that's designed for mirrorless. Now, you've got to understand that part of this. This has been designed completely for mirrorless, so all the other lenses that are out there are not designed to fit that mirrorless camera, which this one has been. So it's a lot smaller and lighter, and that's a great feature straight away from this. It might be that I rent one or something if I ever need it occasionally. I'm not saying I'll never buy one, but it's probably, if I bought this, it probably would be more from gas than anything else. So I've got to try and be careful because Kerry will kill me because she'll say, what on earth have you bought that thing for? You never shoot anything like that. So, you know, but good on Sony for filling that in. I mean, you know, they've got the two of them now. It seems like it's a really great lens. They do both take the extenders if you want to put those on, the 1.4 and the 2 times extender, so that's also fantastic. You can pre-order them now, I believe, in Europe and the US. So it's great. And like I said, they've added stabilization, which is also fantastic. It seems that, you know, the autofocus is quiet, internal zooms, everything else. So fantastic on Sony for releasing this. And it's finally got to the stage now where no one can really any longer say that Sony haven't got lenses to meet any needs, really. Because if you put the extenders on this, you're getting up around about 800. You're getting up around 800 millimeters, which is incredible. So fantastic. I mean, obviously they released the F4 version of the 600 as well. That's 13,000. Initially, they were saying it was going to be. They were initially saying it was going to be 14, I think, so it came a little bit under that, but way out of the realm of anyone unless you're doing that sort of work professionally, you know, like doing sports photography as a professional and doing it all the time. You'll probably find a lot of them will be out rented. I think that's probably the way it will be. People will rent that lens when they need it. And rather than just purchasing the lens. But it certainly is interesting. Like I said, if you do like photographing wildlife and stuff like that, this is a very reasonable lens that people may jump onto. The hard part is for people to decide whether they want to go to the 100 to 400 or just get this one. I think I'd probably tend to go this way, get the 200 to 600 before I got the 100 to 400. That's just the way I think I probably would be, because I think I'd prefer to go for the extra reach if I needed it, rather than, say, get the 100 to 400. So, but at least you have options, and this is the thing that I'm saying now with Sony, that they've covered all the grounds now, that, you know, that we now have the longer lenses that are there, and obviously this is for the Olympics, so, you know, it's interesting how they're all being announced just before the Olympics, so Sony have been smart about this. But at that price range, it's a really cool lens, and, you know, like I said, it might be one day that I get one if I go traveling and I want that very long reach, but I certainly don't have the need for it with what I'm shooting, which is weddings, portraits and events. I'm never going to need a 600. I mean, I really very rarely even use my 200 mil. So it's probably not one that I'm going to get in a hurry, but I'm glad it's there if I do ever need to have it. And I think the price they're asking for that, you know, $1,997 or $98 is fantastic value for what they're giving you on that lens. And good on Sony for doing that. The other one obviously is not aimed at us. It's aimed at professional pro sport shooters and professional wildlife photographers. But just to show you too, the size comparison, if you're looking at it here, they really have done an amazing job with this lens. If you look at it, the 200 to 600 is the one on the far left. The 100 to 400 is in the middle. It's amazing how small that 100 to 400 is, though. It really is a small lens for what you're getting. The 400 2.8 is obviously on the right-hand side there, and the one on the furthest right is the 600 f4, which is going to be massive. I mean, that's huge. But if you're looking at them compared overall, you know, they really have done a great job with that 200 to 600. So I think if I was purchasing one of these, though, like if I was after a long-reaching lens, I probably would get the 200 to 600. But that's me. Let me know in the chat and let me know down below too. Would you get the 100 to 400, or do you think you would just go straight for the 200 to 600? I'd love to know you're thinking about that, because it would be a really interesting discussion. So let me just open up the chat quickly on this. I want to see what people are saying. Chris said, love using my RX10. So pre-ordered the 200 to 600 and I'm looking forward to getting the same reach with better quality. Cool. Long Rider said, I agree, Tag. I was talking about shooters, I think, that were at that thing. Dion said, I'm thinking of the... so you're thinking about getting that too, Dion? Carl said the 200 to 600 will be a big seller. It's the only native option for E-mount. Yeah, I think it'll sell like crazy as well. I was going to say hotcakes, but camera conspiracies will tell me off. You're right, and I think it will sell very, very well, particularly at that price. I mean, it's fantastic at that price range. It really is a value lens. And like I said, people get upset when I say $2,000 is value, but it is for what you're getting. And I think it will sell very, very well. Carl said, he said that. Tag shared, you invite portrait photographers to shoot with the 600. Yeah, well, I'll probably agree with you. They should have had more sports shooters, that's for sure. Sammy said, I was expecting the price on the 200 to 600 to be higher, especially with the internal zoom. I was a bit surprised too. I thought it would have been around the 3,000 mark, so I was really pleasantly surprised when I saw it was too. I think they've done a great job. I really do. PJ Smith said, I use 400 2.8 almost daily and just love it. Worth every penny, and it's so sharp. I'm sure the 600 will be amazing. But you can buy the extender though, and you have got a 2.8 lens there. So yeah, I can understand the 400 2.8 would still be an amazing lens. Carl said it's not cheap, 200 to 600, but reasonably priced for all the features it has. Yep, I agree. What else have we got? Go Sony, respects, Michael said. Do you guys understand that this is not Tony Northrup channel, right? Oh. Harry said you could shoot with the 600 f4 with the 2x converter, and you put the Aussie land and shoot them in Hobart. I know, look, it would be amazing to shoot things like the moon and stuff like that. I mean, look, I probably would love it sometimes for what I could do with it. I just don't know if I can justify it, to be honest. That's the thing. And like I said, it's probably, for me, it'd just be gas. I'm probably better off just to rent it occasionally. Where were we? Eric said, so Sony means business with this 200 to 600 non-telescoping super telephoto lens for under 2,000. I agree, they do mean business. Tag said 2 to 600 is not great for sports, even though all of them portrait... you're talking about the people that were at those things. In my opinion, pre-order it just to try it out. Yeah, I mean, I think if you don't pre-order it, you're going to have trouble getting this lens, that's for sure. Sam said, I pre-ordered the 200 to 600. I expect it will be an amazing lens for daytime sports and wildlife. It looks like a good quality at a reasonable price. Gerald said, the 200 to 600 will be a great portrait and landscape lens. When I get it, I will show that too, in addition to action. I can't wait. Yeah, well, for me, Gerald, it's not a portrait lens. The problem is, look, even with this, you start to struggle with communicating with your model, and that's or the person you're photographing, because you have to stand a long way back, even with a 135. So that's a problem. So, you know, and I don't think... There's a few reasons why I think it would look ridiculous doing that for portraits, because for starters, the lens is really massive, and I think sometimes that can be intimidating for people as well. And also, you're going to have to be that far back. You're going to need a walkie-talkie to communicate with the talent that you're photographing. So, you know, look, it's going a bit overboard if you're using that for portraits. I mean, I'd be getting the 135 or an 85 before I would even think about using it for portraits. It's definitely more a sports or a wildlife or a birding type lens. I wouldn't classify it as a portrait lens. Eric said 100 to 400 is a telescoping lens. Take the Shooter said that's not a fair picture because it down shows the 100 extended. Oh, okay. I think you're saying because it's not extended out. For 100 to 400 seems redundant now. If you need 100 to 200, just switch to a 70 to 200. That's what I'm thinking too. I mean, look, I suppose it's fine having, and it's great to have the options. I mean, that's the beautiful part of this. But like I said, I wouldn't buy the 100 to 400 anymore. I'd be buying that 200 to 600. But that's me. I think I'd prefer to have a 70 to 200, and then I'd just jump in and get the 200 to 600. That's what I'd be getting if I had those lenses. There's no way I would buy the 100 to 400. But that's what I'm thinking, and I'm just curious to see what you guys think about that. PJ Smith said it would have been better if Sony made it 300 to 600 5.6. Nevak said I'd go for the 100 if I needed a GM in the 200 to 400 range, but I think the 200 to 600 will cover me. And I think that's probably what a lot of people will think when they're looking at this. You know, that's what I think's probably going to happen. Gerald says I'll go straight for the 200 to 600 and bypass the 100 to 400. I hope you like Pixel. I would love the 200 to 600. Steve said, I was at Le Mans for a night qualifying using the 400 to 2.8, the 85 1.4 and the 24 1.4 and the A9. Great low light focus and tracking. Yeah, if you do night stuff, you're not going to be able to beat the 400 2.8. That's for sure. If you're doing evening sports, you will not be able to beat the 400 2.8. And that's why the 400 2.8 will still be sell like, I mean, it doesn't sell like crazy because it's expensive, but I mean, it will still sell. I think the one that's going to get hurt is the 100 to 400. But someone here, I mean, Tag's saying the 100 to 400 is great if you want to go light and small. Yeah. Sam says, I have the 100 and it's a great lens, very fast and sharp, but definitely not enough reach for wildlife. That was my only frustration with shooting Sony with the, for wildlife. Yeah. I just open my 200 to 600, it's extremely light. Oh, you got that, did you already? Delta Dave said 200 to 600 is too slow for sports. Yeah, well, it's too slow if you're dealing with... it'd be okay in daylight, though. If you were doing daylight shooting, it'd be all right, Dave. But you're right, anything in the evening and stuff, it would be too slow. Michael said $500 is... 26 to 28 rentals, laugh out loud, that's a lot of rentals. So, what are you saying there, Michael? Is it $500? 26 to 28 rental? Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. So, for $500, you can get 26 to 28 of renting it out. Hero said, thanks, I'm going to try that in the summer leagues starting up. Yeah, so you're going to do that, use it for sports. Tag said, we do portrait photography in sports that don't know where taking... Oh, okay, I see what you're saying, Tag. The film is very small with you. Also has a rubber for the weather sealed at the back. I'm impressed. Tomorrow morning I'll go and shoot some birds with it. So you're saying you're impressed with the lens? PJ Smith said it's a wildlife lens. I would never use it for sports or portraiture, although I do love using the 300-400 for portraits. G'day, Jim. Good to see you in here. Jim says he'll be buying the 200 to 600 and the 1.4 teleconverter. Tag said, how much do you think it will cost to rent the 600 f4? Oh, I don't know, because I never rent lenses, but someone may know. Carl said the difference between 5.6 and 6.3 is only a third of a stop. Tag said, trust me, the 100-400 photos will look a hell better than the 200 to 600. Only get the 200 to 600 if you're going to shoot in the 400 to 600 range. Gerald said, I was just joking about a portrait lens. Yeah, I thought you were. Because you do have that lens, Gerald, you're right. PJ Smith said, most people will buy that type of lens, use it at the 500 to 600 almost exclusively. All right, so let's go to the next story. What are we on? 44.51. All right, so let's look at this next one. Because this is really interesting, and I had a discussion about this with you all in last week's show. Curious to know what you all think, because this guy, now this doesn't mean an A9ii is coming out though, but he's saying that The new 600mm is designed to be used on a faster camera than the current Sony A9. So this makes sense to me, what he's saying there, that, that it's, what he's saying is that it's future-proofing, in other words, the lens. So the lens will work faster than what is currently capable of being used. So I don't think he's saying that the A9 II is going to be immediately released. Now, it might be. I'm still not sure whether that's going to be the case. And I think that's what he's saying there, is that it's future-proofing, just like the G-Master lenses are rated at more resolution than any of the current lenses can give. I think they're rated up to 100 megapixels. So, that's so they're future-proofing, in other words. And I think he's saying the exact same thing here, that the lens has been future-proof because it can go faster than anything that is currently there. But it's a couple of interesting things that he's saying down here. That he's saying that the Sony 400 sales are more than 2 times higher than estimated, so they're obviously selling them really quite well. But 70% of the GM owners are professionals. That's the 400mm. Well, you'd expect that. I wouldn't think many amateurs would buy it. 30% is still quite high, though. I'm surprised about that. Unlike the 400mm GM, the new 600 GM is targeted at high-end amateurs, photographers that shoot birds, wildlife, aircraft, things like that. 70 to 80% of them shoot wildlife. So that's the GM version. So they're saying high-end apertures, and it's for wildlife, sports, and things like that, and shooting aircraft. The new 600mm GM, there are some compromises, which we've just discussed before. For example, the materials in the body, we didn't use magnesium alloy, or the newer XD linear autofocus actuator, and that's what you've got in the new 135, and that's incredible. It really is. Once you've used that, you understand how good that is. The 600mm GM, to be compatible with cameras that are faster than the A9, what kind of camera do A9 owners want next, he says. And he said, there are always requests of more speed, less weight, greater usability, things, and stuff like that. But, it's interesting. And he said, I told you, folks, A9 II is close, and there are rumors we may get it announced in late summer, early autumn. So that's what they're saying there. Now, I'm still not convinced there's going to be one released this year at all. I hope there is. It doesn't mean that I'm going to buy it, and I don't think I will. There's a couple of reasons why for me. I don't need anything faster than what this is giving me at the moment. And I'm being completely honest here that this has met all of my expectations for what I need to use in my type of shooting, which is, like I said, dancing, stuff like that. It's incredible. The only thing I suppose it misses for some people would be that it doesn't have the picture profiles. Now, I'm not convinced that there is going to be another one because, well, what could they improve? Let's just talk about that. What could they improve over the current camera? Well, obviously the EVF can be improved. They could stick in that new 5.6 million dot EVF, which is a given. That's going to be in all of the probably new cameras that come out from this point on. I would think would have that new EVF. It's the same EVF that the Nikon Z6, not the Nikon, the Panasonic has, that's out there, and I think the Fuji also has it, the new high-end Fuji camera. So that's going to be in all of the probably more high-end cameras that are announced from this stage forward. So I suppose that could be improved. The LCD may be able to be a little bit improved. The focusing could be improved, but boy, I don't think it needs it. But there's always, I suppose, room for improvement. But when you're dealing with micro milliseconds, it's probably not something that you're really going to notice that much. The sensor obviously will be an area, that they could improve. And, and are they going to change the sensor completely? Well, to eliminate rolling shutter, like, putting a global shutter in there. Well, we just don't know. I mean, we're going to have to wait and see in that regard. And the only thing I sometimes think is, could they mix, and this is just sort of me thinking out loud, could they mix the A7S III and the new A9 together in one super camera that gives you amazing video and amazing stills? Well, this is what I don't know. That they keep saying the A7S III. Well, we're still waiting on that camera to be announced, and I think that's needed before we need another A9 II. there's no reason why you can't shoot the Olympics with this current camera, because there's nothing out there that touches it. This is better, I believe, than anything Nikon or Canon or anyone has to offer at this stage. If you're dealing with pure sport shooting and things like that, nothing touches it. Watched Jared Poland's reviews recently, and he admitted that. He said that this was the best that there was out there. And you know, and I still think this is the best camera that's ever been released. I really do. So if they up it, fantastic. But I'm not sure that I will buy it. I probably need more of a video camera, so I'm sort of more waiting for what they release in a new a7000 or a new a7S III. The good thing may be, though, that if they do release a new a9 II, we may get the a9 cheaper, which could be a reason why they're so heavily discounting that camera at the moment to get rid of inventory. So I'm not saying there won't be one, but I'm just not convinced that we will get one due to the fact that the a9 II is still so good. The real-time tracking was such a major update on that camera that it really breathed new life into the camera. It was good before, but it really made it feel to me like a new camera. And we're still getting another update with Animal IAF and the inverlometer put into it. And we don't know what other features are going to add into the menus either. Like the menu system got better. There was a lot of changes put into that when we had that new A9 firmware update. So it did breathe new life, and that could have been the A9 II. It was that good, that firmware update, that could have been sold as an A9 II. So who knows? I mean, when he says that future cameras are going to be faster, well, we know that's a given fact. I don't necessarily think it means that there's going to be another a9 II at this stage. There will be another a9 II at some stage, but whether it's before the Olympics or not, I don't know. I mean, how long have we been hearing about the a7S II is imminent? That's been over 12 months. So is that going to happen with the a9 II as well? We don't know. So it's an interesting discussion. So I'd love to know what you think about that. Now, I'll go to the chat in a minute. I'd love to know what you think about it in the comment box down below, though, because, you know, it's an interesting discussion. But the problem for Sony is the A9 is still so incredible. And, you know, if you think about, if they bring out an A9 II and then this becomes a backup to that, it's laughable. I mean, it really is. This is so good that it's laughable that this becomes a backup camera. And that's would be hilarious about this. And, you know, it might mean that if the A9 II becomes cheaper, I'll buy another A9 because I love that camera that much. But anyway, let's have a discussion on it because I'd love to know what you guys are thinking about this. Because it's fascinating. It really is interesting. But I still think we need another A7000 replacement or an A7000 or an A7S III first before we need another A9. I'm just trying to see where it starts to go about this. Oh, yeah, and that's a good point. Tag the Shooter said you also need a better card. So I suppose the buffer could be improved, but I've never run out of buffer, but I don't really shoot sports. But I do the dances, like I said, jumping, and I've never run out of the buffer. But it certainly could be used, say, a different card system, or at least have both fast slots rather than having one fast and one slow. You know, I mean, it could put QXD or CFast or something like that in there as well. I mean, we don't know. So that is an area that they could improve, yes, for sure. Better touchscreen, good point too, Tag. I forgot about that. So that could also be something that they can improve as well. Stuart said, have missed much. Yes, a little bit, Stuart. You can always go back, though. 0007 said the 2600 had some pretty weird background blur in some shots. I haven't checked any of the videos yet, though. I probably should have a look. But like I said, because it doesn't really interest me that much, I haven't found it that engrossing to have a look at. Oreo said, I think the new super camera is a solid possibility. Well, you know, it's hard to say, Oreo. And this is the thing, like, are they going to get to the point where... And this is the reason why I'm convinced. This is the reason why they haven't put the picture profiles in the A9, because it would have destroyed the Sony a7S II sales. And that's a fact. If they'd put profiles in this would have been the ultimate video camera, and that's for sure. And then You can't tell me with the sensor in this, there's a reason, and the processor that's in this, there's a reason why Sony can't put picture profiles on this camera. There'd be no reason why that can't be done. So I think it's a marketing move here that's been done. So, you know, it might be to get to the point where they say, well, we're just going to release a camera that can do everything. And if they released say an a9s, say for instance, that had the 4K 60p, the high. Remember, we are going into fusion, and sports photographers eventually are going to be doing the same thing as well. They'll be grabbing moving images and stuff like that. We're going to get to the point where they're not going to be releasing separate cameras for that sort of stuff anymore. So they may bring out this high-end camera that's like the A9, but also has the features like 4K, 120p at high bit depths, bit rates, something like that. That's a possibility that they may go down that avenue sooner or later. Whether it's going to be in this next iteration, I'm not sure, but it's probably a definite possibility in the future. Internal NDs would be fantastic. I noticed someone's mentioning that somewhere. Michael said a new A9 II could add internal NDs. Picture profiles would also be nice, 422 10-bit. That's where I'm saying though, Michael, where does that leave an A7S? This is the interesting thing though, you know, like if they do that, is it just then going to be one camera? Is that going to be like an A9S? And this is the interesting thing that I'd love to have discussion with you guys to think about. PTY Photo said, remember that we were heading for the Tokyo Olympics next year, and Sony's Killer Instinct will have a product at least the form of an A9S. Gerald said, I have used the 300 and 400 2.8 of other brands, and I can still get separation in water sports, etc. Where are we? I wanted to more go into this now. Where were we? Brett said A7S needs to be released soon. I agree, Brett. And that's what I'm hanging out for. I need another video camera desperately. So I need that as soon as I can get one. Nivak said, the one thing I'm looking forward to is the 200-600 is Super 35 giving 900mm. Now, the buffer is great because it allows to keep shooting, but it's terrible if you need to change settings or switch to video or review settings. Yeah, and that's probably the processor. So it's a given whenever they update the new A9 II, it will have a better processor. So that probably will stop. And that's a good point. I forgot about that. Hero says, I really hope Sony releases a 105. I don't think they will in the meantime, though, Hero. I mean, there's patents out of a 100, so I think it's only a matter of time before they bring out a 100. But I don't think a 105 is going to be announced anytime soon. But I love the Sigma 105. I thought it was fantastic. PJ Smith said 100 1.4 GM. Yeah, that's what's going to come out. I'm sure it will. Michael said, David, you're 100% right. The A9 was gimped from picture profiles. Yeah, it's like I said, Michael, there's no reason why that had to be done. You can't convince me that the A9 could not run picture profiles. If the a6400 can, if the a7 III can, if the a7R3 can, even my a7R2 can. So, you know, there's no reason why they shouldn't have been in there. It's just been held back by marketing, and that's all it could be, that they didn't want everyone to say, well, we want to use the A9 for video. Casper said, you keep going out of focus. Do I? I wonder why. He's got tree autofocus turned on. I think I will get both the A9 II and the A7S. I think we'll get both the A9 II and the A7S before the Olympics. Yeah, it's not. I should touch. I wonder if I can touch on me. Let me just see. Let me see if that works. He's using a Nikon. I love it. 100 1.4 would also work. Yeah, well, that's going to come. There's no doubt that's going to come. It's just a matter of time. That's the crappy a6400 and that Sigma lens. I love it. In and out. Isn't that bad? It hasn't done that before. I wonder why it's doing that. David, your autofocus is drunk. Has it got really bad? I wonder if I should put it on center focus. See, I usually use center focus, but I think I'm on wide area because I'm just tracking my face. So is it still out of focus? Let me know. I'm just curious. I've actually touched the screen, so it should be doing tracking now. Let me know if it's any better. Just curious to know. I'm just checking down here to see if it shows me going out of focus. Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, let me know your thoughts about that. Now, I'd love to know, I've caught up in the chat on that story, but let me know in the comment box down below about that, because I'd be curious to know whether you think, is an A9ii going to come? Do you think an A7S III should come out first, or even an A7000? Michael said, no, it's fine now. Yeah, well, I've touched my face, so let's see if that's fixed it. It could be the lens too. I mean, I don't know. All right, so let's go to the next story. What are we on here? Oh, we're on 1 hour and 15. All right, so let's go to the next one. Yeah, everyone's saying it seems to be okay now, so I don't know. Perhaps it's it. Perhaps it was that I have to touch on my face. I wanted to just show this because this is really interesting. Sales that have just come out have... by the way, guys, can you please give me a thumbs up too? I'd love it if you could. It just means the show gets out there. YouTube's not putting out the message to say we're live, so I really would appreciate it if you can do that for me. Sony sales have been pretty good, but let's look at this overall because I want to show you something about this which is fascinating. The really interesting thing about this is that they're saying in here that overall Canon did hold 37.3% of the overall camera market shares. Now, this is Japan only, so I have to say that. This is for April to March. Nikon held 26.7%. Sony held 13.1%. Olympus holds 6%. And Ricoh, or however you pronounce it, holds 5.8%. But if you compare it to the previous time last year, Canon sold minus 1.3%. Nikon is in trouble because Nikon is minus 15%. That's massive, and I don't know how long Nikon can keep wearing these losses. And it's looking a bit grim for Nikon, and I'm very sad to say that, but it is looking pretty grim for Nikon there. They can't keep having these losses that are going out. Sony sold minus 6.6%. Olympus sold minus 13%, so Olympus is also in real trouble. Fuji, though, is 19.4%, and this is why I keep saying Sony needs to bring out a new A7000. This is proof that that has to happen, because the X-T3 is probably selling like crazy. But it sounds bad for Sony, but it's not. And the reason why I wanted to discuss this is to show you this, because this is the real part that you've got to look at. So don't really worry about any of that stuff that's going on there, because this is the important bit. And it says, but the story changes if you consider the overall value of camera sales. And this is really all that matters, the money that is being brought in by the companies that are selling stuff. So if you talk in terms of units sales, now Sony did have minus 6.6 in sales in the previous year, but they had an increase in sales of 14.5%. So in other words, they're doing incredibly well because they're selling heaps of these high-end cameras. So in sales, they might be dropping a little bit, but they're getting massive percentages, big boosts in sales of overall revenue. But if you look at Canon, 11.4%. So like I said, Canon aren't doing well either. But Nikon, get a load of this, 28.5% minus in their sales. Like I said, Nikon is in big trouble, and I really hope they can get out of this. They were stupid in how they crippled that last camera, what they did with the no dual card slots, not being able to put, a battery grip on there, things like that. Were really stupid. Olympus is minus 21%. Olympus is also in big trouble. Fuji is doing fine. So if you look at the two that are doing very, very well here, it's Sony and Fuji are both doing well. And this spells a lot of doom. And I don't want to be, because I don't want these companies to fail. I really don't, because I think we need the competition. But Canon are in trouble. Nikon is in real trouble. And Olympus is also in real trouble as well. And it's very, very sad. But, it's and it just says down here, if this trend continues, it will be big trouble for both of them. And that's true. And the figures don't lie. I mean, I know that's only Japan, but they're in big trouble. I mean, they really are in big trouble. If you're losing 28%, and like Olympus is losing 21%, they're in dire straits. And that's probably why you're seeing massive sales going on and all these incentives to try and buy their cameras and stuff like that. Sony has got 14% extra in their sales. So even though they're selling less units, they've got a big markup and they're doing very well the way that they've targeted their cameras. And it might be a reason why they haven't released anything new as well. So, you know, it's interesting how it's going. Fantastic if you're like us and you're in the Sony realm. But if you're in the Nikon realm, and I'm glad looking at those figures that I got out, it's pretty bad. They're going to have to do something fairly soon, drastic. They really are. I'm going to go to the next story because we've been on a long time, because I just wanted to talk about this because this is another part about why Canon may be struggling as well. Let me just put down here 10630. So this is a really interesting story as well. This was on Pentapixel, and it was talking about that Canon was blinded by Sony, and it's a really interesting article. I'll put all these articles down below so you can have a read of it, because I'm not going to go through the whole thing because we'll be here all day. But what they're basically saying, if you're looking at it, is why is Sony winning the mirrorless wars? And it's a really interesting article, so have a read of it and comment in the box down below later on what you think about this article. But they're saying now that if you look at Sony's list of available lenses, it's pretty boring. Well, I don't agree with that, because I think now Sony has got everything covered almost now, apart from wide angles. Now that's what they need. I think they need to bring out a wide angle. So they're saying that the mount is an interesting thing, and this is what I wanted to discuss with you all, because they're saying the short flange distance doesn't matter, and they're saying in fact it might be a problem with Canon later on to have the two mounts, and even Nikon. And this is what is interesting. So that I'm not going to go through this any more than what I've showed you here, but I'm going to talk about it without this being on. But what's going on here is they're saying that they believe having the two mounts is a problem, and I think it is. I had a little bit of a discussion about this with Aaron too the other day, that the beauty of the Sony system is that you can use APS-C lenses and you can use full frame lenses and mix and match them in the same mount. That is a huge advantage, because it doesn't mean you've got to go out and buy completely different lenses or use adapters. Yes, Nikon has adapters. Yes, Canon has adapters. But there is always a downside to using adapter. It also does, it's a weakness as well on the lens. As soon as you add adapters, there is a weakness there. It also makes the lenses much larger. It's a potential where moisture can get in, other things like that. And look, I don't like to use them unless you have to, but it is a weakness. So with the Nikon Z mount, you've got the same problem. With Canon, you've also the R mount, you've also got the same problem. So initially they were going that the reason why they've done this is to allow these amazing lenses to be mounted on there. But having said that, you can put 0.95 lenses on Sony now. They're available now. So the lens mount is not a problem, and it really isn't a problem if you can deal with putting lenses on there now, similar to what Nikon and Canon have. They are available, but they're third-party lenses. It's only a matter of time before Sony bring out a very fast lens, and they've admitted they can do that. So it's only a matter of time, and they probably will bring out something like an 85 1.2. That's probably what I believe is going to happen. They'll probably bring out something like that, just to prove that they can do it. It's going to be horrendously big, it's going to be horrendously expensive, but they will bring one out. So the problem with Canon now is when people go in to buy cameras, and then new people coming in, they'll look at the lens mounts and everything's different. You know, they can't use the same lenses on either one. And I use APS-C lenses on my full frame. I use the 16mm on my full frame and shoot Super 35 when I want to shoot video. And I use full frame lenses on my a6400 and a6500 all the time. So, you know, you've got that great benefit of being able to do that. So that's one probably main reason why Sony is winning this as well. The other thing too is that they don't hold back. Apart from the A9 with picture profiles, Sony haven't held back. Like Canon have held back terribly. Awfully. If you look at their 4K crop that they give, if you're dealing with IBIS that they've held up on, it's terrible. Soft video, it's awful. So they hold back terribly. Nikon have held back as well because they didn't put dual card slots in that camera. They haven't stuck in a battery grip. It's not possible. So their first releases, there was no excuse for that at all. And again, I think they've missed the boat. And this is a problem. And I think it's really starting to hurt them now. The sales are really starting to hurt them. And I showed you that a minute ago. I think that Sony made the right idea with coming out with this mount that's a standard mount and not changing anything, because everything is standard, and I think that's the best thing that they did. I'd love to know your comments about that. I'm going to open it up to chat now for a minute, and leave your comments down below too, because I'd love to know what you think about that as well in that. So let me just put down Q&A. All right, so let's open up Q&A because I'd love to know what you guys think about all of this, because it's really interesting stuff. It really is. I'm just seeing what people are saying here about Nikon and stuff. I know it's very sad though, like they are in trouble. They're all talking about my focus. Nikon is dead, Casper said. Well, I hope that's not true. I do want Nikon and Canon to survive because we need Sony to be pushed. Hero says Ike's going to keep Nikon alive. Chris said APS-C is a sweet spot for most ILC shooters who are amateurs. So with a film grip on full frame, hopefully Sony will do the same for APS-C. Casper said, I remember when Nikon people laughed at me for using Sony. I know, I got the same when I moved over as well. Jim said thumbs up 100 if you can. Thanks, Jim. Zoet says Nikon and Olympus should just combine together. They're going to have to do something, that's for sure. Oreo said the comparison with previous year for Sony is doped by the ludicrous amount of A7R3 and A7 III, especially that they are sold in the first month of 218s versus 0 full-frame cameras this year. So imagine when they release a new camera, though, Oreo, what that's going to do to those numbers. Hero says Olympus has some great features in those systems, but they are stuck with a micro four thirds. Yep, I agree. Chris said, sort of weird for Canon to be blindsided by the popularity of mirrorless. Isn't the M50 one of their best-selling cameras? Yeah, it is actually. So they just don't learn, though. That's the problem. Gerald says, in the USA, Sony this year is still selling more full-frame mirrorless than any other brands. Check Amazon numbers for USA. Nivak said, Sony's 10 to 18mm E lens is really good. I've got that. It's there. I use that lens all the time. Love it. But they need a wide-angle prime, though. That's what they need. Like a 12mm or a 14. I think that's what Sony are missing. So they need to come out with something like that, I think. Would like to see something wider than the 16. Yeah, they definitely need something wider, that's for sure. Do you need the official Sony USB wire to update? Well, you should use the official one, yes. Dion said, Canon has 3 mounts, not 2. The original mirrorless APS-C and the mirrorless. Yeah, thanks for that, Dion, you're right. Hero says, I'll take a 50 0.65, please. Gerald said, the Sony USB works best, but I found one from Amazon that also works. Thanks for that, Gerald. Stefan says, A9ii should cover the sensor while lenses are changed. Some sort of dust protection. Yeah, that would be good if they did that. I use a blower every time I change lenses, and I've never had a dust issue, though, I must admit. But I do it every time I change when I'm out. Chris said, I've been watching old camera reviews, and 5 years ago, people were complaining about Canon holding back. Guess at least you can praise Canon for being consistent. I know they just don't learn, and I just don't understand it. Hero says, I'm trying the wires I have in my wire box. I will take pictures of cats tonight. Oh, because you're doing the update. Eric said Sony is handling this camera market the same way they did with gaming consoles. They want to be the only game in town. It's not good for us though if that happens. I hope everyone survives. Sam said, if you're using the USB hub, it will cause an issue. Yeah, you're meant to plug directly into the computer. I do use USB hubs and not have a problem though, but yeah, some do. Gerald said, having two separate mounts will hurt both Nikon and Canon cost bottom line. The other thing too is that you've got to understand here, they've got to then develop two separate systems, and this is the problem for Canon and Nikon. So they're struggling financially. Now, not only are they struggling financially, but now they've got to create two complete separate lenses. They've got to develop their normal lenses plus the new mounts. So they've got to split costs in research and development. That can't be good. Sony don't have to do that. But Nikon do, and that's bad. Brett said one mount for me. Native lenses are foolproof. You can't be bothered with adapted lenses. Yeah, they always work better, the native lenses. That's for sure. Zoet said, I agree, major issue with mirrorless is the lack of dust protection. Yeah, I don't have a problem, but like I said, I always use the blower, so I don't have that problem. But people that don't do it, I think, have got issues. I do it religiously, so it's just something I always do. Oreo said, what I meant is that Sony did not release any full-frame cameras this year, so comparison with the two cameras of last year could not be anything else than negative. Yeah, I agree. Sam said, I was originally sold my Nikon D850 and switched over to Sony. I took a lot of flack. Well, I did too. You should have seen the flack I got when I did weddings and stuff and they were seeing me shooting with Sony. I got heaps of it early on. Blue said, I love my A9 with the 135. When I bought into the Sony, the camera store tried to sell me the EM1 X. Oh, wow. That's interesting. I have noticed now, though, that when you go into camera stores, though, Sony now is in a prominent position in the stores. It used to be held right at the back. Now it's often in prominent positions, so that's something that has changed. Canon, Sony has the 12 to 24. Yeah, they do have that, but I'm talking about a fast lens though. That's variable aperture, isn't it? It's an f4 lens, I think. No, it's an f4 lens, I think. Casper said, my best buy sales are mostly Sony. Michael said, David, you have the best form of interaction between you and your viewers on your channel. Out of all the channels I've seen, it's great the way you've structured it. Oh, thanks, Michael. Really appreciate that. Great job, number one. Hero said, Casper, you work at Best Buy. Chris said, the Tamron said they are planning to make a 70 to 200, but no idea. I think it'll be 12 months. I think from the time that the 17 to 28 is released, or 1735, I always forget which one that is. It'll be 12 months again. It'll be this time next year that the 70 to 200 will come out. That will finish the holy trinity of lenses. That's why it'll definitely come out. I don't think there's any doubt it will come out. Jim said, is it your opinion that Sony needs something more capable in front of the 600 to 200, 600 for the Olympics? Have you worked out how you will slip one of those lenses by Kerry? No, I'm not buying one, Jim. I don't need them. That's the thing for me. I just don't need that lens. If I bought one of those lenses, that would be total gas, and I'm not going to do that. I think that Sony doesn't need anything better than what they've got now. No, I don't. Sony is killing it with the new 600mm lenses. Now they have big glass now. I know they've got everything. Like I said, the only thing they're missing now is a wide-angle prime that's fast. I think that's really... Yeah, I do use the rocket blower. Yeah, that's what I use all the time. So I religiously, before I do a shoot, I'll take off every lens and use a rocket blower on it. And then during the shoot, I've always got it in my camera bag. And when I change the lenses, I'll just give it a quick, blow of air in there. Colin says, I don't really have a dust problem, but I notice my images have a red tone. Oh, not sure, Colin. We shouldn't have. I certainly don't have that. There's something wrong somewhere. Check your picture profiles or something like that aren't on, or some of your settings in saturation. You might have to revert the camera to its original state and then see if that problem goes away. Jim said David welcomes those with crooked thumbs also. Holy Trinity is 28, 75, 70 to 200 and 200 to 600. Oreo said super wide lenses such as a 12mm need to be primed. Yeah, I agree, Oreo, they do because of the distortion. I agree exactly. They need to be like that zero distortion type lenses, but I think that's what Sony needs. They need to bring out a 12mm, say 2.8 or a 1.4 lens that has the zero distortion. That'd be fantastic. Sam said, I actually got an invite from Sony Pro Support to try the 200-600 in New York City on the 18th. Oh, it's a pity you can't go there. You've pre-ordered it anyway. That's fantastic. Colin says, that is a red skin tone. How to correct that? You shouldn't get that, though, Colin, because I don't get any of that. What camera are you using? I certainly don't get red skin tones. I think the skin tones are beautiful. I would reset your camera, though, and see if you've done something weird with the camera settings. But let me know what camera it is. Dion said Sony needs to have some exotic lenses such as a tilt shift. Yeah, perhaps they do, Dion. But the thing with tilt shift lenses, though, they are just manual focus lenses. So I think that's the reason why they don't bring one out, because it would be no different than using it with an adapter, because they are always manual focus lenses. So there's no reason why you can't just buy a Canon, Nikon, or any other tilt shift lens that's out there and use it on your camera as it is now. They don't necessarily have to be native mount lenses because they are always manual focus. Delta Dave says, I think Sony has run up against it with those tiny bodies and trying to implement higher frame bit rates. And I think that's probably is an issue too, Dave. I agree with you. I think if they're going to bring out... Now, why is that focusing? It was saying it was focusing down there then. I think if they... And I reckon that's been the hold-up with the A7S and the A7000, for instance. They may have to go for a bigger body, and I know they don't want to do that. Either that, or they're going to have to try and develop a processor that runs way cooler. Jim said, in a pinch, your car's exhaust will only work okay if okay, as a rocket blower. I wouldn't be using your car exhaust, that's for sure. What else? Gerald says, kept my 17mm f4 tilt shift lens, use it on the MC adapter. Yep. Dion said, red skin, should also check your monitor calibration. That's a good point too, Dion. It may be that as well. Sony a7 III, yeah, Colin, you've got a problem. It's either your monitor needs to be calibrated, as Dion just said, or I would reset your camera just to make sure you haven't got a setting somewhere that's been changed somewhere inside picture profiles or something like that somewhere that's causing something funky to be going on. And that's about it. Mod said, I was in Sydney last weekend and every camera shop I went in, Sony was the first cameras you saw. And that's what I'm finding here now. Sony has made major improvements in where it's placed in the camera stores. And that's a definite sign. I don't know about the US, but it certainly has happened here. Gerald said, I think the new Sonys will need a bigger body. Yeah, I'm okay with it as well. I mean, I love that size. But if it's going to give me 4K 60p at higher bit depths, I'd be willing to sacrifice it. So, do you use color balance outdoors? No. If I'm shooting video though, I just set to either sunny or cloudy or whatever, so it's all consistent. A second I go indoors, I use a color checker passport though, yeah. I always do that. But if you're shooting video, it's important to have a standard setting because it can change quite drastically. So you're better off to say set just using sunny, cloudy, or whatever, or put it in manually and have that white balance set. If it's still images, I just leave it in auto because I can control that in RAW anyway, so it's not a problem. Do you think Sony will handle 8K? Well, you never know, but it'll have to be a bigger body, that's for sure. All right, guys, that's about it for today. Thank you so much, everyone. Love it if you could give me a thumbs up. Stay tuned. I'll have another couple of videos up today. If you haven't checked out that video I posted yesterday, check out this amazing light that I did post. I'll have another couple of videos up this week with the 135. I've still got a studio shoot that I want to share of that as well. So stay tuned for that. Apart from that, everyone, I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks so much for the support, everyone. And if I don't see you any earlier, have a great weekend because it is Friday here for the Aussies, and everyone else have a great evening and stuff like that. It's lunchtime for me, and I'm also going to go and get a coffee. Catch you guys.